Hi, True Crime Grapevine fans. It's me, Patty Lee. It's a little late. I said I would go live at 9 o'clock, but what is it? It's 11:09. So I got a 9 in there somewhere, right? Today is it's True Crime Tuesday. Everybody drink to that. Oh, I've got my little Starbucks coffee cup. It's tea. It's tea with a little whiskey. Why is it tea tonight? A little hot toddy. Well, I've got a little cough and I've got a kid who's sick. The worst kind of sick. Vomiting, high fever. We've got everybody situated right now. My kids aren't little anymore, but it's still scary. Hopefully nobody has to go to the hospital. Okay, so what do I have for you tonight? We are going to be discussing one crazy new case. And I was introduced to this case by Mel or Mel from Florida, one of my favorite main squeeze sources. He can be found on his YouTube channel. I believe he's also on Discord, on Twitch, on Instagram, on how many different social sites there are, Facebook. Ickadmel is spelled little Ickedmel. Go look him up. You won't be sorry. He is a true crime aficionado who's been doing this for a really long time. He's great with his upload and lives. He does crowdsourcing, and he sometimes finds out things that other channels don't, and he's often the first one. So he has been following this case since it occurred on around March. Well, it did occur. He's been following it since since it occurred in October of 2020. So what happened in October of 2020? This is the Maricela Botello Valdez case, and she is from Seattle. She went to Dallas to visit either boyfriend, a friend who used to be a boyfriend. Stayed there a couple of days, and on her last night, she went out by herself and then poof, disappeared. So I'm going to tell you about that story. We're also going to discuss the Idaho. There is right now a brouhaha about the public defender Ann Taylor. How do I remember that? Because it's the name of a store. Ann Taylor, not related, I don't think, to the designer. Had a conflict of interest with another client, and she had to withdraw from that other client. And we'll talk about that. Some people say, oh my gosh, how could she? She needs to be thrown completely off this case. And the other people are like, yeah, it's really not that big of a deal. We'll be talking about the Alec Murdaugh. There is motions in limine, or as Emily D. Baker, another great YouTuber who does great lives. I highly recommend her, and she has been discussing the Murdaugh case. She's also been discussing the Idaho case. Anyways, she talks about motions in lemonade, which is motions in limine, and all that means is motions prior to the trial. And Judge Newman in Colleton County has made some decisions. Motions in limine are about what is going to be basically. Here's the rules about what we're going to deal with. There's general rules, but then for the specifics of each case, the judge goes like, you're not going to talk about this. Okay, you can talk about this, but not this. It excludes evidence that isn't maybe appropriate for a trial, or can be too discriminatory. It has more value, has less value than it would to hurt and take away someone's rights. So all these things are discussed prior to the trial. And then it was day 9, and perhaps the last day, we'll see, of the Miliete preliminary hearing to see if Larry Miliete will be bound over to Superior Court for murder. All right, so the first case. Oh my gosh, raise a glass, and it is really chilly. I live somewhere in the Great Lakes area in the upper Midwest, and we're having a snowstorm supposedly. Some of us worse than others. Who knows where it's going to go. It's been a non-snowy winter, so I'd like some snow, but messy. I think I slurped. Sorry about that. It's been just a day since my kid got sick. All right, so this crazy case. We're going to follow it because this case it is timely in that it was going to trial now. Now, I say in my channel description that I'm edu-tainment. What that means is I do think I'd like educate slightly about what's going on. And the court system can be a little weird. And I sort of have a crazy memory for things. And since I love true crime, I feel like I can be accurate most things about what's going on. And if you remember me bitching, excuse my language, about people saying with every single case, ad nauseum, we hear, and if you're in true crime, you know this. Oh my gosh, this is taking so long. Why don't they arrest somebody? Why can't they find the person? Then it's why does the court system take so long? And this is all too slow. This is the slowest case. Every case is the slowest case ever. But the cases that are coming into trial right now are cases that occurred in 2020, and they're just they have wound their way through the trial. But the actual crimes occurred in 2020 or 2021. So that is kind of just how it goes, even in simple, just one person hurt cases. That's why when we have like an Idaho 4 and everybody's like, why didn't they have it figured out? You would be, if you just looked at numbers, not how you feel, how we all feel, or how we remember how we think things went. But if you just look at numbers, statistics, which is why they exist, on the average, like cases take a really long time. And that's good in that we want them to take long enough. And when we get to the Murdaugh case, I will tell you, I think they should have taken a little more time because they're not locking down everything real tight, and it's going to bite them. I think, personally, prediction. All right. So, but in this case, in 2020 in October, this woman, she was 23 at the time and remained 23 because I'll tell you, shocker, this is a murder trial. And the murder trial is supposed to be happening, jury selection, just like in the Murdaugh trial, was supposed to start today. This 23-year-old, she was coming from Seattle, visiting a friend in Dallas. She went out her very last night to a club, did not return home. I'm probably going to have to make like a little dedicated spotlight case because, and please go over to Mel's channel. He just put up, he uploaded about this case. I'm trying to think of what he called it. Maybe he just said a crazy Dallas case. But anyway, he has been following this, and he explains him following this over the last whatever years. And not very many people are talking about it. And one of the craziest things was these three people who were kind of in a throuple. I don't know. Do you guys know what a throuple is? Well, let me just say, for those who don't, you know what a couple is, right? Two people in a relationship. So a throuple would be three. There was a younger man who was 31, and then these two women, 49 and like 50 something, and the women had known each other. These people all in Dallas at the time, and it looks like this guy, the guy, Charles Chuck Beltrain, met Maricela. Now, his story and the conventional thought is, so they hooked up, he took her home, although it's really weird because their phones of all three of the throuple pinged like around the club, I believe, and then also on the way, and then at this house that they all lived, although it was actually purchased by Lisa, who was 57. Lisa Dykes, 57. I believe she was the home. Looks like Maricela's phone goes there. Then it appears as if the two women's phones travel further south the next, like early in the morning. So what happens, it has come to pass that we have found out that so Maricela was unalived in the house, and the women appear to have moved her body, and her body then was found in a field really close to where their phones pinged, and also where one of them, I think it was Nina, one of them had property where they found them. So this is found out in a matter of time because there's pictures of Chuck leaving the bar with Maricela. So they have him, then they track him to his house, and then, they get people's phones, and then they start to figure out what happens. They rip up the carpeting. They find that there's blood on the floorboards in the one bedroom, and it matches Maricela's DNA. And like I said, then they find the body. Then they have to go find these people. Now, Chuck, his car ended up in New York, where one of the women, Nina, was from, and it had Maricela's hair in the trunk. And so they have the blood, the hair, and they have her body, and they have that this house connects to these three people. But the three people take off, and they are found in different states. Nina and Lisa, and they're all arrested. Nina and Lisa get out. They were out in May of 2021 having like an ankle monitor. They cut them off and take off and go all the way. That's what Mel's card says on his thing. They went to Cambodia thinking maybe they weren't going to get extradited. Haha, but they were. They were brought back, and now the trial was supposed to start. So they had jury selection today. And here's what the weird thing is. Oh, well, the police detective forgot that she had a bunch of evidence that she didn't give anybody, which is a huge no to do, especially on the eve of a trial. Apparently, this woman, detective, her name is Kristen Ramirez, gives a thumb drive to the actual cops over the weekend, to the prosecutor, and it's like, yeah, oops, sorry, forgot this. And it had a bunch of body cam footage as well as audio recordings and over 300 pictures. Needless to say, the trial then had to be continued until it will be, when was it delayed? Until the trial is delayed. Judge Amber Gibbons was hot and very angry because she's like, we have a jury ready to come in here, and the parents traveled from Seattle, Washington, where she was found. Yeah. And so now we're going to have to wait for the defense to go through that. And I don't know what was wrong with that detective. All right. So, if you want the deep dive, Mel's got it on his YouTube channel at @IckidMel, and it says something about ran away to Cambodia. We will find out if, allegedly they unalived her, and it seems accurate. We shall see more, but the whole detective thing is really weird. Okay, so go visit Mel. Now, second case. Public defender, Idaho, the Idaho 4. The public defender's office, Ann Taylor, is the main, I believe, defense attorney for those who need defense attorneys in her county. She happened to represent in the past Xana Kernolda's mom. Now, if you remember, it was a really sad sort of story. Xana's mom appears to have had a history of addiction in some respect, and got into trouble because of that, and doesn't seem to have a lot of money and needed the public defender. And, that's cool. Now, Ann Taylor, the public defender in that county, had represented Xana's mom. So in this case, she had to sign a legal piece of paper just acknowledging that she had represented Xana's mom in the past, and that um, she was resigning from representing her from here on out. Like, I cannot, because now there's a conflict of interest. So she gets to choose which client she's going to go with. Now, Scott Reich had his panties in a bunch because he's like, look, this is just unethical. I mean, you could do it, you could, but he wouldn't. And, he's like, even though like some attorneys' offices, they'll say they have like this called a Chinese wall, meaning they won't talk about this one case if somebody represents somebody that was counter to on another side of a lawsuit that somebody else in the law firm represented. um he just said he wouldn't be dealing with this. Now, he's a private attorney, and I think that gives it colors his perspective, because we can only see things from our own perspective. We can try to see things from others, but it's really hard. Now, Lori Hellis, who's been a defense attorney, I believe she also was a prosecuting attorney at one point early in her career, but she has been a defense attorney for most of her career. And she said, this isn't really a conflict. This is a big drama. People are making it. The lawyer has just said she's acknowledging that in the past she had represented Xana's mom, but she will no longer be representing her. How would that be a conflict with representing Brian? It's not, because she doesn't know anything about Xana's daughter and the crime related to Xana's daughter. So that doesn't affect her representation of Brian Kohlberger. Scott seemed to intimate that it was, what are you going to do? Who are you going to pick? The client you had at first? Or, I don't know, the famous one to make your career. Now, again, we judge people based on us. The problem with this case is that Brian Kohlberger is being charged with the death penalty, and he needs a death penalty qualified lawyer. And we've talked over and over about this in the Lori Vallow case. If you have the chance of losing your life, they will get you the best representation, because the state does not want to off people just based on, too bad, so sad, you couldn't afford a good lawyer. Sucks for you. We don't want to put people to death that didn't really do it. And it's important that they get good representation. There are not a lot of death penalty qualified lawyers. And we can see it's important to be death qualified lawyer, because look at John Pryor. He doesn't seem to be a bad lawyer for Chad, but now Chad has a choice not to go with the death qualified lawyer, because it's not a public defending situation where the state's making the choice of who's going to represent him. He gets to choose. But John Pryor's with his back to the wall saying, like, I didn't have enough time to do what I needed to do, which is a him problem, not a court problem. You know how people say that's a you problem, but it's also a Chad problem. And then it just, that is why Anne is going to stay on Brian Kohlberger's case. Kohlberger. I can't say the name right. Because she's death qualified. The kid needs a fair representation, because he's liable to get the death penalty, and Idaho wants to say they did everything fair and square. So and I don't know what possible information Ann Taylor could have had that was privileged from Xana's mom's case that would have anything to do with Brian Kohlberger and the Idaho case. So that's that. Hey, if you have an opinion, you could put it in the comments. You could like. If you haven't subscribed, you could subscribe. I'll watch all the true crime on the grapevine of the interwebs. And then I'll tell you every night. I'll give you a little live. Or once a week, I try to condense it into a roundup of the true crime of the week. I just uploaded last week's earlier this evening. So that would be great if you wanted to do that. But I would love to hear your opinion, especially if it's not exactly my own. I think I learn from other people. So that's why I listen to so many different people. Even if I don't like them all the time, I listen to them because it's about getting a different perspective so that I can make like the best decision. And I would love to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think. Do you think there's going to be a conflict of interest? Let me know. Nobody says I'm right about anything. All right. The third case we're going to talk about the Murdaugh. It's spelled Murtaugh, but we say Murdoch because that's how they say it in South Cackalack in the Low Country. So Alex's team had a number of motions in limine to get things kept out because they felt they would be more negative, not just negative, but I mean prejudicial to the point that it would interfere with Alex's right to a fair trial. So what did they argue? The first thing, the biggest, well, not biggest, one thing they argued was that all his financial crimes and especially specifics about his financial crimes shouldn't be allowed in as a matter of motive because the defense attorney said that the state was basically guessing and using and it was kind of written in a sassy tone that the state was using standards that were criminal standards versus the case that is up for this motive. So the state is saying that because Mallory Beach had a wrongful death suit, that part of that was that they were requesting all this discovery about minutia of all his financials, and that's why he killed. I still don't understand that, you guys, and that's why he killed his family because somehow, if his family died, that would stop the lawsuit, but it wouldn't. I mean, it might have stopped it in the short term, but it wasn't going to get rid of it. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. You're going to kill your family to buy a couple weeks. I mean, it doesn't make the problem go away. And there was never enough insurance money on Maggie and Paul to like ever pay back everything. So I don't really understand the logicalness of that argument. It is more logical to me that the state wants to bring it in, specifically why the defense wants to keep it out. Because, well, if you're this crappy person who was almost bankrupt and the jig was up, you obviously would commit murder. I mean, you committed all these other frauds. It basically is prior bad acts, but these bad acts aren't directly related to murder. And I don't think there's a straight through line that the prosecution has. Anyway, their point was that just because Mallory Beach's lawyers had asked for specific all these financial things doesn't mean they were going to get them. It's a civil case. You ask it in discovery for civil, you ask for everything, but you don't usually get everything. It has to be decided. It's not like a criminal case where you must give everything in discovery. It's not like that. And that's what his motion said. Basically, they're making this whole motive based on this idea that he would have had to turn over all his minutia of his final things that were requested in that civil case, when in civil cases, that's not what happens most of the time. So, and they even pointed out that one of the other defendants, the people who owned the convenience store, were saying they refused to give over every single bit of that there was going to, so why would Murdaugh have, instead of fought it, just killed his family? I agree that that doesn't make a lot of sense. Financial crimes, everybody knows that they start talking about that, it is going to be prior bad acts and it will 100% just give them the reason to say, oh, that's why, even though even it just brings it muddies the water and it's confusing. I think they should prove that Alec killed his wife and son through science and proof, like in all these other cases where people have searched on Google and written and planned, and everybody knows there's like, well, not that everybody has to know there's bad blood, but I mean, that could be one of those things. Like with the Milioti case, people knew that they were having marital problems and that one of them wanted to leave and the other one was scared. In this case, the one thing that shows that Alex was on the property with his wife and son is a Snapchat that Paul took, and they seem fine. They're walking together. Nobody's having a problem. So, we think they were having, I mean, we know there were huge money problems. Anyways, so right now, the judge and the both sides have agreed that number one, doesn't the judge isn't automatically going to say all of that is out. He said he'll address it when they have a jury seated, when they're in court, and he will address as what can come in. He said at this point he can't say, and he doesn't want to start precedent to for the prosecution that for sure this evidence comes in, because motions in limine are about what is like what is kept out, what are we not going to have in before we start this. So it's not really like ripe for discussion right now is what the judge decided on that one. The second one, the motion was about keeping out the shirt. The shirt that the defense said was not, it wasn't, when it was tested for blood, it came back that it wasn't blood, but then there was the guy said it, the expert at first said it looked like a transfer of substance, and then after that Slud went and talked to him some more. They did more testing and they destroyed the whole thing and didn't share it with the defense, and then the guy changed his mind. So that one, what did the judge say about that one? Each one of them was kind of like a draw. The judge said he hold on a second. I'm looking about the blood one. That was the one that he's going to decide about the expert's testimony, but it's not going to be considered. Oh, what did he say? I know I read about that one because I wrote right next to it that it was like a draw. So they're going to be able to talk about it, but he's going to, he's going to hold a counsel hearing once that evidence is presented, and then he's going to decide. That's what it was. Sorry. The judge ruled that both sides agreed to hold a court hearing once the evidence was set, and that will be presented on whether the expert can be called like as a witness. Okay, so that was kind of a draw. So far, no big decisions. We're not sure the bloody shirt will come in. We're also not sure the financial evidence will be allowed in as a motive. We'll find out closer to court. And the last one was about the ballistics. That was a loss for Alec. He had to take a big L on that because now Alec's team said, here's the problem. They looked at shotgun shells that were found at the scene, and then they found more shotgun shells out near a duck pond where the Murdochs, it was a hunting, Moselle is a hunting lodge. And they said, looking at those, they did that ballistic things. They were substantially the same. Um, which, like, is that exact science? The ballistic science is questioned, but the biggest problem with the ballistics is that the gun they say that shot, they got 4 guns from the property. They did not, I don't think they tested his hands. You know how they're supposed to, when anybody's at a scene, if somebody's been shot, how they test somebody's hands? I don't think they tested Alex's hands, because I haven't heard anything about this. And they took guns away because there were guns there, but I don't think there was like a gun laying right there. Like, they didn't know which was the gun. And the one that shot Maggie, they're calling it what's it called? A blackout rifle. But now it is missing from the property. So they know that all these shotgun shells match each other, and they think they came from a gun that's no longer there. So Newman ruled that he's going to allow the state to submit the ballistic evidence, all the ballistic casings around Maggie that were the same as the one in the pond. And the state says they're from the same gun, but the gun is missing. How do you think that's going to go over? See, I don't know. Thoughts? Put them in the comments below. Let me know. Or you could chat. Tell me now. Tell me later. I would love to hear. What do you guys think? I mean, it seems weird that they're saying, like, no, we can tell that these were all shot from similar guns. These ones over here and these ones here. But we don't have the gun. I mean, how do you know who shot the gun? That's a little weird. I mean, because it was his family and it was his property. So what if somebody used his guns? I don't know. Doesn't that sound weird? I mean, I have lots of thoughts on Alex Murdaugh, and they're not all nice ones. And it sounds horrible to say, I don't think he has the balls to kill his family. But number one, I don't see the financial motive, because I don't see how it gets him out of the financial problems he was in anyways, for one thing. And number two, while he may have wanted to kill his wife, I don't know. He seems like a big lug who's a spoiled baby and a spoiled brat his whole life. And he hired people to do his dirty work. He didn't do his own dirty work. He didn't do his own homework, allegedly. The guy, he had fun. He drank. He hunted. He obviously spent a lot of money, other people's money. But it doesn't seem. I don't know. So I'm confused about, yes, all these shells come from the same gun, but we don't have the gun. Well, then how do you know for sure? What they mean is there's a gun that should be like that here, because we know there's shotgun shells from it, and I guess maybe they own it, but they can't find it, so they can't test that exact one. But they're saying, but it's similar. I don't know. Is that enough? I think that's one of the reasons this isn't a death penalty case, because you can't convict somebody for death when you don't even have the weapon. And still, guys, I'm very, very unsure how this man supposedly, number one, these people all could walk and run and scream, right? So how do you get the drop on one of them and shoot them without the other one then running away? Like, and if he's shooting at somebody and he goes to, like, run down the other person, he switches guns? That doesn't make sense. Why would you switch guns? Why wouldn't you just shoot everybody with one gun? And where's he got 2 separate guns? A rifle and this other long arm blackout gun. It can you it, it seems like there should have been 2 shooters. I don't know. What do you think? Put it in the comments below. I don't know. So we have 122 people. They did do jurors again. They're still trying to get jurors. And at this point, it is mostly the judge just asking these big groups of people the major questions like, do you know anybody related to this case? Have you been represented by any of these people? Have you already made up your mind? And can you clear your calendar for 10 weeks? Those big questions, he's gone through 900 people in just a few days. So tomorrow there's 122 jurors are going to return to the courthouse Wednesday, and then they're going to the next step is to narrow them down to getting just, the 12 people and the alternates. And that's when the lawyers are going to start doing voir dire after this last pool. Now they're going to start asking people their specific questions to find out. A lot of them is the defense wants them not too authority driven. If you have an authoritarian personality, you might feel like there's black and white, it's very absolute, and that people in the power are right. Therefore, you're going to go with whatever the state and prosecution says is the theory behind that. And then, so the defense will want people that are more liberal, more think for themselves, maybe even people who don't trust the police and authority 100% across the board, no matter what. Those are some of the big ones that they'll ask questions about. So that should be interesting. All right. So that's tomorrow. They'll get to that. All right, people. It's been a day. We're almost done with this day, aren't we? It's 11:45. I think I might make it under before everybody turns into Patty's Pumpkins, and it's the next day. The Miliete trial. This is day 9. Now remember, this is a preliminary hearing trial, meaning this is to see the judge is the decider. There's not a jury impaneled or anything. This is to see, does the judge believe, listening to both sides and the evidence, both sides are, the evidence is being presented by the prosecution in a preliminary hearing. Unlike a grand jury, there is the defense and the defense's lawyer, and the lawyer can question and attack the credibility of what the prosecution is presenting. And that's how preliminary hearing goes. It is to assign, it's also called like a probable cause hearing. Is there enough probable cause, not just to arrest now, but to go to the big trial? So they're in a district court. They're going to be going to a superior court, which is where the big felonies go, like murder. So this might be the last day. Tuesday might have been the last day. I don't know if they have anybody else. We have heard from her dad, her sister, her brother, her other brother. We've heard from her friends and coworkers. We've heard from her bosses. We have heard from investigators. And today we heard from more investigators about number one. So Maya, we learned yesterday there was kind of a bombshell, right? She did have an affair. And it's right around the time when people described, like at work, she got a little crazy and felt a little sloppy and got worse at home. She was obviously more irritated. This all, now she moved out in May, June and May, June, like maybe the end of May to the end of June, about a month. And then she did come back with Larry, but by September, we know from her Finsta, and if you don't know what a Finsta is, it's a fake Insta. It's a separate Instagram, and it was a private one. They never found her phone, so they're getting this all from her iCloud. They could mirror her iCloud and see things going on, which is kind of crazy to think. Like, whatever you're doing online, just know that if anything bad happens to you or your loved ones, the cops, they can see everything. So her marriage was not working out, and so she strayed with a coworker. And so obviously this time period is also the time period where her husband is also showing problems. Now, on her iPhone, it also was there was a 2-minute conversation that was secretly recorded by May. It reminds me of like the Snapchat recordings. It's interesting how much we now record things, and it was an art. They were arguing about Larry's suspicions and that he had thought she was having an affair with a coworker, which he wasn't paranoid. I guess this it was true. Of course, this is kind of a case of you say somebody's doing something for so many times and then they like make it happen. Okay, you're right. If I'm going to get yelled at for doing this, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Um, the prosecution was asking, um, did they know for sure if May? It somehow got brought up that was Larry perhaps poisoning May in some way, and the guy said he didn't, the investigator said he didn't want to speculate, and the judge said it was okay. And he said, yeah, maybe. And then the defense was like, well, did anybody even think that she was like in danger? And the guy answered that the boyfriend actually wrote he was worried about Larry hurting May. So people were concerned. Um, Do you remember that Lori Daybell used JJ's computer when she was doing stuff? People use their kids' computers. I don't know if they're thinking ahead to would the police get into my computer? Do you remember our friend Brian Walsh, who unalived allegedly his wife Anna in Massachusetts? Remember Cohasset, Massachusetts last week? Um, Remember how he used his son's computer to do all his little Google searches about what to do with dismembered bodies and how decomposing bodies, how do you get rid of the smell? Lord. All right. How to cut up a body. I mean, he's a real genius, isn't he? But they think if they're doing it on a kid's computer that the cops aren't going to look on a kid's computer. Well, yeah. Larry. Larry had a file on his kid's computer. Now, it didn't say it was password protected, but please God, I hope it was because it said daddy's files, and in it were um, videos of him having like sex acts with his wife. I mean, it was his wife, but I wonder if she even knew. And why was that shit on his kid's computer? I don't know. That's a little sick. And then there was also the information about his spell casting. He had been contacting a person to cast spells to make Maya like fall. It started out make her love me again, make her um stay in love with me, make her not love anybody else. Then it turned into she didn't make her hurt, make her get injured, make her have an accident, make her get ill so that she's sick and dependent on me and she can't live without me, like physically, which is kind of okay, you're asking for her to be hurt. So there's some mens rea, which is, how the mind is. There's evilness of the mind there. Um, and then he did more and more he started this in September 2020, which is interesting because that's when the affair started. And he kept going more and more through December into January. And then, oh, January 7th, he emails the guy saying like how he can't really stand how bad Maya is being. And then, yeah, nothing after that. What do you think about that? That's a quinky dink, isn't it? Oh, then on January 9th, after his, long day trip where he didn't take his phone, so nobody knows where he went for 12 hours. Then he contacted the spellcaster and said, hey, could you take any hexes off of May? Because Maya is also called May. Sorry if I'm switching your name there, but could you take it off because and put it onto this guy who she was having an affair with. So no more spells on Maya for some reason. Also, Larry's phone did text Maya 44 times between January 7th and January 30th, but didn't call. So was Larry just creating a little, oh look. Well look, for 1 month I'm gonna act like I care where she is, and then so sad. I mean, if you really thought somebody had run away, you would be calling as well, like probably every day. Because sometimes people pick up the phone, they don't pay attention to the number. Um, so yes, and also on his kid's computer, there was more stuff about the subliminal. He was looking into like disciplining her and controlling his wife subliminally. Oh, and on that 2 minute recording, part of it was she was mad about the subliminal stuff. Like, I don't know if it was something like there were actual, well, I'm sure we'll hear more about it, but it just seems that the dude was desperate. Anyway, yeah. Oh, we also learned from another person with the DA's office that they had found a neighbor had a video captured May 19th of this huge fire at the Meliette house. This is after Maya's been missing for, what is it? January, February, March, April, May, 4 months. And the law enforcement did take that video. They agreed it looked like Larry was out back burning a huge fire, and they looked at what was burnt. Unfortunately, they couldn't see any names, but there was a credit card, some looks like important papers, documents. I don't know, maybe like passports. But they actually could not tell exactly what it was. I mean, Larry wasn't as stupid as some of these people. He didn't actually Google how to kill his wife, just, spell casting. He didn't actually Google how to kill his wife, just, spell casting and subliminal messaging. He didn't take his phone with him when he did something with her body, allegedly. He did lie about going to work. That also came out. So, yeah. Just, so will this be enough for the judge to decide if he should be bound over for trial? What do you think? Put it in the comments below. I will tell you. Oh, hi. Hey, Suzanne. Yes, you know what? You've been missing me because I tried to go live at 9 o'clock instead of later, because I was like getting up and putting my makeup on to go live really late. But I don't know. I can't tell when is a good spot. So, Suzanne, if you were up late, maybe it's more fun when people chat. Maybe I'll do it at 11. What do you say, Suzanne? It's up to you. Is it, are you up at 11? I don't know where you are. I think you said you were somewhere warm, right? And speaking of warmth, okay, so I'll be back tomorrow and I'll tell you what's going on. Also, I wanted to share with you, look what I made. I'm going to be making these for all my friends and family. I don't know. I thought maybe about giving away a pair. They're murder mittens. What do you think? Yes, Georgia. That's right. You probably don't need murder mittens in Georgia, although I can make other things. But I also got purple to make like grapevine mittens, but yeah, but I love the red because they're, murder mittens. So that's my one exciting thing. So we will find out more. Thank you. Yeah, I've been knitting weird stuff during the pandemic. Here, want to see what else I knitted? Oh, I made this is a baby one. This one won't fit me. But look, I made a little crown. Look. Now, this doesn't fit me. This was a child size one. But it can go like over their ears so that you can even pull it down. Yeah, nice, right? You rarely wear a jacket. Oh, golly. Well, it's cold here and we're getting like 7 inches of snow. Crazy. Speaking of all my sources, you guys, do you watch Ryan Hall, y'all? I'm a weather fiend. Besides liking true crime and then watching things like Housewives. I also watch everything about especially tornadoes and hurricanes. I love. Um, so, oh, thank you, Suzanne. So that's that. No, Suzanne, since you showed up, I was talking. I had a couple questions. Do you think Larry Meliette is going to be bound over for his wife's murder, even though there's no body? Thank you. I do. I think so far. Here's what I think. Not that anybody cares. Boy, I can't wait till June so we can find out what is in the preliminary hearing for Brian Kohlberger. I really want to hear what the scientific evidence and like what's in his computer. That will be like, I think that will be very interesting. Um, you're not sure about Larry Miliete. I will just say, um, I think very much personally, total speculation, that he did it. I mean, he lied about being at work. He didn't go to work. It definitely looks like he pulled up his car. Her body is gone. She hasn't been active anywhere or talked to anybody or been seen since the day that there were bangs in the neighborhood at night that were caught on a surveillance Nest camera. The FBI couldn't say for sure that they were gunshots. And then later on, the children were outside playing at 10:37 at night. I mean, it seems as if something came to a head January 7th. Um, oh, yes, Emily D. Baker talking about, the South Carolina lawyer. Yeah, that's Alec Murdoch. We talked a little bit about that. It look, the Murdoch case is a novel in the making. It is a Southern Tennessee Williams, John Grisham type novel. There is a family dynasty that has children who I believe have become very naughty and lazy and taken advantage of. It was for four generations that they could basically do whatever they wanted. It is going to be good. The financial stuff, there seems to be so much evidence in the Russell Lafitte Palmetto State Bank case. I don't think there's any question that there was a system. Now, if you guys know any lawyers, I will tell you. Lawyers work, if you're a partner, you get paid by what your other lawyers make. And I've already said this, and I stand by this. I think the other lawyers, one of them being his brother, I think they knew what kind of crap he was pulling and somehow benefited. It's like the Giraldi case. Tom Giraldi didn't do that by himself. There were a bunch of other lawyers, as well as there was a judge in his end that was helping him out. Just like in South Cackalack, man, there were, as we know from the Russell Lafitte financial scheme, there was a judge working with him. He had the bank working with him. We know that there was a drug. I don't think he was, no offense, I don't think he was the drug addict, but I do think he was dealing drugs. Like they said, if you watch Mandy Matney, she has a whole thing about, it was called Jackpot, that another family member a generation or two back had was involved allegedly in drug running off the coast. And with all these drugs with the oxy, and Eddie Smith giving him checks to buy things and moving things around and all the shenanigans that he was doing at the bank. I don't know how you couldn't be that big of a huge drug addict. You're not using it. You're transporting and selling. And if you're transporting and selling, yeah, that good old boy system. My whole thing is, I think the good old boy system has decided we're going to cut Alex loose. cut and run time. Sorry, dude. You're on your own because you're not taking us down with you. I think Alec is just the tip of a lot more crap going on underneath the surface of all those, intercoastal waters. There's not just, was it alligators or crocodiles over there? What do we have up more? In Florida, there's different ones. Like, I can't remember my animal stuff, but I will tell you, I think Alex was involved in stuff enough that some people might come to his hunting lodge and off his whole family and make sure that he just didn't go down for financial crimes, but he went down, down, goodbye, never see you later. Alligator. Yeah, alligators. I just think that there is something going on in South Cac. And Alex has paid a price and he's going to continue to pay a price. I personally, I know he's a horrible person. Lazy, spoiled, seems to not have a conscience. He's spoiled rotten, literally spoiled rotten. He was doing the same thing to Paul and Buster. I mean, they cheated in school. They drank too much. They didn't think the laws applied to them. He killed somebody and he continued. There was video of Paul after the accident in which he killed a friend, supposedly a friend, still drinking, still driving. Kid did not learn because the rules didn't apply to him. And he'd killed somebody. So I don't know, but I think there's more probably than we'll even learn in this trial. I think there's a lot of people that want Alec. Like, yeah, let's just make it about, yep, he's drug it. Yep, it's all him. It's all him, not anybody else. No need to look over here. And as long as he's taken care of, he might not talk. I don't know. Is it that twisted? I read too many novels. Maybe not. But I don't know how he had 2 guns and ran around and killed 2 people and none of them got away. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying, yeah, I think basically he was spoiled rotten. He was a rotten human being. He took advantage of the people that needed him the most. And something did happen to Gloria Satterfield. I mean, do I think Buster probably whacked the back of what's his face's head when he went by in a truck? Maybe, how people take off in the South, not in the South, sorry, I meant in the country because it happens up here too. Kids go by mailboxes with baseball bats and whack them. Now, do we think that Stephen walking along that road got the shit beat out of him? Because that's what it seems like how that kid died. And was Buster involved in it? His name was brought up. I don't know. I can't say for sure. That's allegedly. Gloria Satterfield, if you listen to the 911 call, Maggie doesn't, I mean, I'm sorry that she was shot. That's awful. But her response to a woman who is needing horrible medical attention right that minute, she sounds like she's bothered by it. Oh, yeah, she's kind of, I don't know, she fell down the stair. I mean, it's very weird 911 call. Something off happened to Gloria Satterfield. I think she was exhumed. I think it must have shown something because then there was questions about her wrongful death. I don't think she just fell down the stairs. And I think there was some injuries to her that must have shown that because whatever. Now she worked out at Moselle. Let's go with the drug thing. We know there was all that other weird stuff. And Mandy Matney's Murdaugh. God, this is like a tongue twister. Murdaugh Murders podcast. When she was talking about Moselle and jackpot and all this drug dealing, she pointed out there is like there's a strip, an airplane strip. So you could get drugs in and out. So maybe Gloria Satterfield fucking saw all that shit going down. Think about that. What if she was suddenly a witness that that was back in, how long ago was that? Early 2000s, mid 2000s? I mean, you know, we know Alec didn't have a problem taking care of business, doing whatever it took. I don't know. There's something really, really vile going on in those intercoastal waters around Moselle. Um, yeah, I do think that that had a lot to do with it, and I wonder about the scuttlebutt, the little chitter chatter about he and Buster, because all you need is one person to be like, "No, I'm not like that. No, don't say that. Oh, I can prove I'm not like that. Let's go get him." And they find him in a vulnerable position because his car ran out of gas, and that's all that takes. All you need, like I said, every good old boy has a baseball bat in their car. Lots of them, because, like, if you run into something and you want to, like, be able to put it out to misery, or you know what I mean? I don't know. I grew up out in the country. Maybe that's not everybody, but I could just see his friends, "Oh, prove that you don't like him, Buster. Prove it. We're gonna drive by one more time." I don't know. Again, that's all supposition, but I do think that the Murdochs felt untouchable, and they weren't. And some of it's gonna come out, but I don't know if all of it will. Yeah, see? A lot of people do. That's kind of a thing people carry. It can be protection, it can be a lot of things. Yeah. Okay, so Suzanne, you're in chat. You're the only one here. Are you finished for the night? Do you have anything else you want to chat about? It's all you. Can I knit you anything? Oh, I'm in the process of knitting a doll, an actual doll. I have it half done. Knitting needles. Keep them by my bedside. They're good. They're good. The small ones, very good for putting between your fingers. All right, guys. Suzanne, it's is it midnight? Oh, it's almost 12:12. I will. Yep, and please say some good prayers, thoughts, vibes for my kid who's upstairs throwing up. He's basically a grown up. I mean, he's of age, but boy, you don't like your baby sick. And hopefully I won't catch it, and I'll be back tomorrow night, all right? So, I will see you guys tomorrow. Be safe. Bye.